All right, let's jump right into this explainer and uncover the unglamorous, frankly grueling reality behind a highly polished North American promo tour. We see the flawless choreography, the perfect smiles, the seamless TV appearances, but what actually goes into producing that magic? Well, today we're unpacking the raw, behind-the-scenes footage from BTS's recent promotional run to show you exactly what it takes to perform at the absolute highest level.
Eating it is literally death. Now, that's not a metaphor about a bad review or a tough rehearsal. That is a very literal, agonizing reality they faced during one of their major media appearances. But before we dive into how they got to this tear-inducing point, we kind of need to step back and look at the entire gauntlet they had to run.
So here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We're going to break down the specific physical, technical, and media hurdles they've faced on this tour. We're talking battling freezing elements, adjusting for 360-degree stages, reunions in nostalgia, observing New York weather, and finally, surviving 2 million Scoville units.
Okay, first up, battling the freezing elements and the massive physical toll that takes. When you watch their swim-side live rehearsal, you expect this incredible high energy, right? But what you don't necessarily see are the brutal conditions they're battling just out of frame. I mean, they were dealing with absolutely freezing temperatures. So cold, in fact, that their microphones literally froze. At one point, Jimin accidentally hit his mic against himself twice and pointed out how incredibly painful it was simply because the metal was frozen solid. Add the pouring rain to that and the fact that Namjoon was navigating the set on 2 crutches? Yeah, you instantly build empathy for the sheer physical grit required to just get through a rehearsal without getting hurt. And it's really fascinating to see their raw survival tactics just to keep their equipment functional. They aren't complaining, they're just problem-solving on the fly. To keep the microphones from completely freezing over, they actually resorted to stuffing the frozen metal inside their own clothing just to warm them up with their body heat. It is a really stark contrast to the glamorous image of pop stardom, that's for sure.
All right, let's move away from the physical toll for a second and shift our focus to the technical polish, specifically adjusting for 360-degree stages.
This brings us to a really intimidating technical challenge. Picture this. You walk into a venue, and the audience isn't just in front of you. They are surrounding you in a massive spiral exhibition space, literally looking down from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. That was the layout for their 2.0 and swim performances, and it fundamentally changes how a performer has to project their energy and manage their stage blocking. And this is where we see the real-time problem-solving of elite performers in action. They turned casual rehearsal banter into an absolute masterclass in stagecraft. They immediately recognized that their standard routine just wouldn't translate in this highly visible, white spiral space. So what's the fix? First, they communicate to make their choreographic circle wider to accommodate that 360-degree audience. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, they realize that against the stark white background, every tiny flaw is magnified. So, their solution? Dial back the explosive energy. As they noted, rather than going too hard, it looks much better if they just stick to clean, precise moves. It's totally counterintuitive, right? Relaxing to look sharper, but it's brilliant.
Okay, let's step away from the stage entirely and into the warm, bright lights of the TV studios for our next section, Reunions and Nostalgia, Navigating the Media Gauntlet.
Looking at their massive career arc, the reunion on Jimmy Fallon's set was genuinely emotional. Jimmy noted that the last time he saw them, 5 years ago, they were just little kids in his eyes. And today, they return as global icons. But even amidst this massive success, they managed to stay incredibly grounded by reflecting on their humble beginnings, specifically looking back at their 2015 and 2016 era.
I absolutely love this specific anecdote. During some downtime, they were joking about a viral clip of one of the members wearing a classic gray hoodie and carrying around this old, battered Canon camera bag literally everywhere he went during their early music show days. The joke amongst the group was so ongoing that Jin and another member actually bought him a brand new bag for his birthday, explicitly telling him to throw out the old Canon bag. It's just one of those small, hilarious glimpses of brotherhood that really breaks up the heavier, grueling performance details of the tour. Speaking of downtime, let's look at what happens when highly observant travelers actually have a minute to just look out the window. Here's our section on observing New York weather and cultural differences. So there was a massive cultural disconnect here regarding bad weather. Coming from Korea, where people are generally highly sensitive to the rain and, protecting their belongings, the members were totally baffled by New Yorkers. They observed that locals rarely use umbrellas and, astonishingly, just leave heavy padded coats and items sitting outside in the pouring rain, letting them sag and smell.
They were so completely stumped by the logistics of this, like wondering if New Yorkers just constantly wash and dry these heavy, wet items, that they hit a wall in their own reasoning. Which led to this hilarious realization: I feel like ChatGPT would know. Hey, when cultural observation fails, you might as well bring in the AI, right?
Well, they couldn't stay in their hotel rooms observing the rain forever. It is time to introduce the absolute climax of this narrative: surviving 2 million Scoville, the ultimate endurance test.
Just to give you some quick context on the severity of this Hot Ones appearance, the number 29 is pretty significant. They happen to be booked for season 29, which was the final season for the show's 20s era.
And let's look at the relentless format of the show. As they learned on set, Hot Ones films 3 seasons a year, and they completely change their sauce lineups every 4 months. Now for the guests, the first half of the interview might just feature sauces with a little kick. But from sauce number 6 onward, the gauntlet escalates into absolute unforgiving torture.
Which brings us to the terrifying Scoville measurement they were about to face: 2 million. When they heard that number on set, the disbelief was palpable.
The panic really sets in when they look at the branding of the worst sauces on the table. The notorious sauce known as the bomb doesn't even bother listing its spice level in text. Instead, it just features a menacing radiation symbol. The members rightly called it out as looking incredibly cruel, joking again that eating it is literally death. They tried to keep their spirits up, chanting that BTS doesn't cry, only their bodies cry. But yeah, the reality of the spice quickly broke through.
You can actually pinpoint the exact moments where the agony peaked for different members. Jungkook actually found sauce number 7 to be the most unbearable for him. For several of the other guys, they hit a wall at sauce number 8. But by the time they reached the terrifying sauce number 10, the physical reactions were undeniable, literally leaving Jin turning completely red in the face as they suffered through the final questions.
And this agonizing heat triggered a fantastic piece of group lore. RM admitted on camera that he was reverting to Sweatune. Now, this is a childhood nickname given to him because of his tendency to sweat profusely, particularly when eating spicy food like the famously hot, spicy pork cutlet of death. It's just a highly humanizing, really funny moment right in the middle of severe physical discomfort.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to take away from our explainer today. We consume these performances as finished, glossy products. But next time you watch a flawless live pop performance, will you think about the frozen microphones held inside jackets, the rapid mathematical adjustments for a 360-degree stage, and the burning taste buds that made that media cycle possible? The polish is beautiful, absolutely, but as we've seen today, the true art is in the gritty, freezing, and sometimes very spicy endurance behind it. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.